On this episode of Spirit Talk.
I'm amazed by the spirit world. I'm not really amazed by myself, right? I'm amazed at what's presented to me and what they show me and how they work with me and how, it lines up, and they're giving me pieces of information that aren't even sometimes in Holzer's files, but then are later validated, which I love because that's what the show is trying to do.
Hi, I'm Chris Fleming, the creator of Spirit Talk. You're listening to the podcast where I'll be bringing you the greatest thinkers, researchers, and contributors from around the world to discuss what we know in the field of the paranormal, life after death, and the pursuit of higher consciousness. You know, the holidays are right around the corner. And if you're looking to get something special for a loved one or a family member, or maybe even for yourself, check out my GenBook page. If you do a Google search for Chris Fleming GenBook, GenBook, you'll find it on the first page for the searches, or just chris-fleming.genbook.com. That'll take you to all the services that I offer. But the particular one I want to talk about is spirit art. What is spirit art? Well, I found over the years that when I do my meditation and I do my readings, and I write down on a piece of paper, I start seeing your guides, your soul crossing over to the other side. I start seeing the different colors involved with your aura. And then also I will see either angels, loved ones, or certain environments that I see your soul travel to, your higher consciousness. So what I started doing was I started drawing what I am seeing. So what does the spirit art session involve? Well, basically, you give me a call over the phone, and I start doing a mini reading. And during that reading, I start drawing down what I'm seeing. Then I take what I saw, the sketches that I did, and I apply that on a 12 by 12 watercolor paper where I draw it out and I add these gorgeous, vibrant colors that I saw. And then usually within 24, 48 hours after I complete it, I ship it out to you. Very simple. So if you're looking to get some unique spiritual spirit art, go to my GenBook page and book a session today. I know you'll love it because I'm a big fan of art. And if you're a fan of art, this is something that you've got to have on your walls or have in your art collection. And if you act now, you can use the discount code SPIRIT, SPIRIT, and you will get 15% off of your order or any service in my entire catalog on GenBook. Hi, it's Chris Fleming. Welcome back to this month's edition of Spirit Talk. This episode, we are having a conversation with medium Cindy Kaza from the TV series The Holzer Files, currently airing its second season right now on Travel Channel with paranormal investigators Darkness Dave Schrader and Shane Pittman. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. And, you know, I've been following you since Holzer Files came out and fascinated. I see that you travel around, do galleries, and you've done readings, and then you've done some interesting projects also traveling overseas. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what do you like to do the best with your mediumship?
Oh, gosh, that's such a tough question because there's so many, right? Like there's so many different things that fall under the umbrella of mediumship. So, I mean, I honestly, Chris, I think I enjoy all of it. But my passion project is traveling the world and meeting with different healers and learning about how mediumship works in their culture, because I think, mediumship exists in all cultures, religions. Right. It might be called something different, right? So I've spent a lot of time in Indonesia and working with some healers there. And it's just interesting to see how religion plays into how people interpret mediumship and who they're communicating with.
Right.
So I'm just so fascinated by all of that because I guess my goal with the project Diary of a Medium was to show people that, it exists everywhere. It's innately a human experience. And just because I'm experiencing it, seeing maybe angels, or because that's my reference bank from growing up in a Christian family, it doesn't mean that people in other religions aren't seeing similar energies. It might just be presenting differently. Right. So I think that's so fascinating. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring this up because this morning I was looking at some of your videos on your website. You guys can check out mediumcindykaza.com. That's medium, Kaza.com. And if you go to the video section, you will see what Cindy's talking about, this diary of a medium. And she's got these videos on here with her interaction with some of these spiritual healers and mediums on the other side. I found it interesting when you're in Indonesia and the guy was talking about the jinn and the rock was moving, and he had, obviously, that jinn was channeling through the other individual so that he can communicate with and find out, what do you want? What are you doing? That fascinates me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's incorporating so many types of mediumship. It's going from, mental mediumship, quote unquote, right? Clairvoyance, to finding where the jinn is, to pulling it out, then trying to put somebody into a trance. It's like all of it, and then using it for healing. So it's fascinating to me because although I don't consider myself to be a trance medium, I think automatic writing is a light form of trance. But I honestly, Chris, I'm fascinated by all the different ways that mediumship can present itself. It never ceases to amaze me. So I'm a lifelong student, an explorer. I definitely know that I have a lot to learn, and I want to learn all of it. I wish I could in one lifetime.
Absolutely. I know, right? I love what you're saying here because there's times where people ask us questions and sometimes we have the answers. It comes to us. And sometimes, we just don't know. We say, you know what, I don't know. But, you can go look at this or you can investigate that. You can research that. You talk about, I look at Diary of a Medium. You've been to these different countries. I was very fortunate back in 2010, 2011. I went to Mexico and I worked with the Mayans and some of the shamans and dealing with the Alush. Yeah. Oh, amazing. And came in contact with the Alush. And these spirits were able to turn into animals and they were able to turn into children. And they weren't children because you can tell it's not a child, but it was really creepy. But when you see their spiritual forms turn into that and they say, they're ancient, thousands of years old, it was fascinating to me that their culture is so embedded within nature and with the electromagnetic field in the way they do certain rituals. But then you talk about like Jamaica with the Mayal and Obia. I was able to participate in those rituals and experience that, which is the good magic and the dark magic that they do. I think people forget in America, don't you think sometimes that all these cultures that, predate us, have had these supernatural and spiritual experiences as well as it's really deeply ingrained in their culture?
Totally. And I feel like, when I've been overseas, Indonesia, Malaysia, Belize, right? I've spent a lot of time in Belize as well. I feel like most people believe it's just kind of commonplace. Like, oh yeah. Oh, I saw a spirit or that, and so in America, I feel like there's just more resistance. There's more resistance, but it's okay. It's okay. I think people find it when they're supposed to, if they're supposed to. And so but you make a really good point because a lot of these ancient cultures, they deal with elementals, they deal with energies right? So that you've got the elementals, you have shapeshifters. If we talk about Native Americans, the many different spirits, and elementals and things that belong to that, Native tradition. It's fascinating. There's just so much, there's so much out there.
It is. And I know when we filmed Help last year, 2019, we came in contact with some elementals, some pixies. And I had never, I've seen different creatures in my life, so be careful how I say that. But in the UK, when you talk about elementals, they talk about these nature spirits, the gnomes, pixies, fairies, elves. And I've always wondered in my life, are those things real to a degree, even though I've seen certain type of elementals, which I won't go into. But to have that house that had these things attached and to see these things race across the room and then to see this thing manifest and then get them on audio speaking to us was fascinating. And that's what I'm trying to tell people and our listeners, like you're sharing here too, is that, other countries have experienced a lot more than we have in this realm. So it's like, we got to keep an open mind with that. And how do you figure with what you do? Obviously we're not traveling now because of COVID. So what you've been doing is you've been working on Facebook, doing some live Zoom galleries for all your clients, for anybody that wants to chime in.
Yeah.
How have you found that to be? Obviously, because we've gone through so many changes, you used to tour and go to theaters and places that you would have a live audience and you do these gallery readings. Now you've gone to the Zoom. How has that process been?
It's really the same, Chris. The energy of obviously the room is different, but I think it's actually a unique opportunity to show people that I don't have to be in the same room, or you don't have to be in the same room with somebody to connect with their loved ones. Because I think some people believe that they have to be sitting across from you for you to feel that presence, but the energy is all around us. It's in all the directions. It's not just here, right? And even with psychic stuff. So it's been a shift. I love the energy of a live audience. I love that energy. But I think there's something really special about being able to still connect and do it through Zoom. And I love being able to share that because it's such a tough time for people. And people don't have to leave their homes. I mean, you can still do the healing work. And I'm so grateful that we have technology and the platform to do that today. But it's been okay. It's different.
Yes.
It's different, but I'm enjoying it. I'm getting into the groove of it. I've been teaching a lot on Zoom. And so, a lot of people I found during COVID have really started to wake up to the connection with spirit. And I was thinking about it. I was like, what is going on? Is it the energy of COVID? And then I realized, I was like, actually, I think it's more that people have been forced to stop. And the experiences in the present, right? When we experience spirit, we have to be very present. You have to be in the moment and present. So people are being forced to be present. And then I think they're just more aware of what's going on around them. And I think there's something energetic going on too, obviously, that's contributing. But people are starting to wake up,
Yes. And, what's interesting while you were talking is people don't know, obviously, this is audio, but Cindy and I are speaking video. We're seeing each other as we're talking. And as she was talking about spirit, I saw, and it wasn't dust, it was just a ball of white light, and it was huge. It was behind her, came directly down behind her. Now, whether that's a car going by or something, I don't know, but I just wanted to share.
No, there's no cars, but please read me. I love this.
No, I saw it visually. I actually saw it. Yeah. And it's like, holy cow, she just had, and my listeners know that when we do this podcast, we've had some strange things happen. We play back the audio, and there's voices that are responding to what me, and the guest on the show are saying because they're listening in. And like you were just sharing, which is non-locality, is you don't have to be in front of that person to do the reading. You don't have to be local. You can do non-locality because you're connecting to the collective consciousness. And by tapping into that, you read it. But it also, on that other side, is aware of us when we're talking about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you just saw that. It's like, high five, spirit, Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, this was like a oval type shape, and it was bright. It was self-illuminating is what I'm trying to say. But it was way in the distance, like it came right through the wall and it went straight down. And it's not an orb or dust or stuff. No way. This thing was like oval shaped and just slowly moved with like a purpose. So that was pretty cool. So
that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I love it.
You've got stuff in your house.
Well, it's not my house, so I'll give it to my friends. That's right.
All right. There you go. But Cindy, you've come up a lot, obviously the last 2 years because of this exciting show that's been on Travel Channel called the Holzer Files. And Dave Schrader's a good friend of mine, and I think I may have met Shane once in the past. So it is so cool to actually have you on here chatting with you. I know I've had the pleasure of watching some of the episodes from the first season. I watched the premiere episode for second season. I was going to try to watch the second one, but I couldn't find it to watch it because, I don't have cable, Travel Channel. But I am going to watch it.
Hulu, Amazon Prime, you got those.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Some of the streaming services. I know I've got Amazon Prime. Okay. I like how you work when you come in and you don't want to know anything about the place and you just want to pick up the spirit. You want to pick up with the environment. You want to pick up spirit. Tell my listeners, the process you go through before you do this, when you're doing it, what you're thinking, because as you know, everything's edited down on TV. We only get to see it. You could be walking around for an hour and a half, picking up on all this amazing stuff too, but they're going to pick and choose what they use for you. And you can
doesn't make it in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amazing stuff that sometimes you reveal that just doesn't go into the show.
Yeah. It's interesting because, paranormal is actually very new for me prior to Holzer Files because I've spent the majority of my career doing private readings, doing big gallery events. So I didn't have a whole lot of experience going into locations and walking through and doing that stuff. So it was really fun for me to be able to get this part on the show because I've been studying psychometry for years, remote viewing, automatic writing, like all of these tools that I've had in my tool belt, I could finally use them. Right. Mm-hmm. And so walking into a location, I honestly, Chris, like I have to clear my mind because even the second I'm standing outside of a location, I don't want my brain to start creating stories based on what I'm seeing. So it's like, I might get a flash, then I clear it. Then I get a flash, then I clear it. And then if I feel it's really important, I'll hold it and I'll wait until I'm in there to make sure I wasn't just picking up on something outside. And so I go in and you know what? I've learned that I need to say every single thing that I'm seeing because I've had the experience where I would see something and I thought it was crazy and then I didn't say it. And they're like, why didn't you say that? That was like that would have been the best piece.
Yes.
It's like, how many times do I have to learn that lesson? But, I go in blind. And the reason I don't want to know anything is because I don't think I should know anything, but also I don't want to know anything because, again, like the way that the brain works, when we know evidence, our brain is trying to make sense of what we're being told and it's trying to weave a story, and that doesn't work. So it screws me up if I know something. I don't want to know. So I just do the walkthrough. I feel pulled to a place, I'll go. If I feel really bombarded with spirit out of the gate, I'll do automatic writing because that really gets me just like channeled in. And so if people don't know what automatic writing is, it's channeled writing. So I don't hear the information and then write it. It's actually coming through me and I'm seeing it come out the same time everybody else is. So it's connecting into a little bit of it's a different frequency. And it's different than clairvoyantly working or using clairaudience. It's different than the clairs. So I like to mix it up because different ways of working gives you different pieces of information, So
absolutely. Yeah. And I like how you stated with the automatic writing, and I got to see the season premiere for the second season where you were doing the automatic writing, and it is a great focus. I know when I do my readings, I have a legal pad, either yellow or white, and I will I'll put the person's name, I'll draw a line in the middle. The left side is earth, the right side is the other side. And whatever comes through, I'm able to do that. It does help focus because, as you know, you have other things trying to communicate with you, and you're like, no, I need to focus on this particular case, this location. And a perfect example is you guys caught an EVP. While you were doing your automatic writing, they captured in the room an EVP saying just passing through.
Oh, it's crazy. Like when I heard that EVP, I mean, look, like I know I would talk to dead people all day, but the technology, when my work is validated with technology, I still get freaked out because I'm like, I can't believe that just happened. It blows my mind because the spirit world is so cool and the possibilities are endless. So like to be able to validate the mediumship with the technology is just awesome. Like it's exciting.
It is.
Seriously.
It is. Yeah. And it helps the mediumship because when you're communicating with someone, you could be having a conversation and we're not hearing the other side of it. You're just relaying it to us. But sometimes when you use ITC, you'll capture the other spirit that's actually talking to you. And people are like, oh my God, or they get it on their headphones or whatever comes through. And it's remarkable, but it's great because okay, then I'm there. And I'm connecting, and that alleviates the other skepticism with the production or other people that are around and just let me do my job, Right. So what is the challenges you found doing this show? I mean, I could say the hours and getting up and traveling is exhausting, right? But
it can be. The hours are nuts, yeah.
What have you found to be the most challenging in doing this?
I think it's honestly, me getting in my own way sometimes. And also it's like when I go to a location, right? I think it's important to remember like these buildings are really old. So say a building was built in 1640. There are a lot of timelines that could be picked up on.
Yes. Layers. Yeah. We call that layers when we investigate.
So many
it's crazy.
And so like, I just like surrender to the spirit world and like, please help me get the right layer for this story. I really hope, because it usually happens, right? I mean, it's happened every episode and with maybe some other layers kind of mixed in, when I'm going through,
right.
But it's just interesting to think about it that way. And also to me, I'm amazed by the spirit world. I'm not really amazed by myself, right? I'm amazed at what's presented to me and what they show me and how they work with me and how, it lines up, and they're giving me pieces of information that aren't even sometimes in Hans's files, but then are later validated, which I love, because that's what the show is trying to do, is trying to put together the pieces that maybe Hans couldn't put together during that time, or maybe the information wasn't even there, and to continue the story, right?
Oh yeah, that's fascinating. And I want to reiterate what you had said earlier and have people really understand. We go through challenges at times too, and sometimes we're our worst critic because we're like, well, I need the confirmation. I need to know because I'm getting this and now I'm moving on to something else, but I still need to know about this. Is definitely, and even the director, when I was doing the second season, I'm sure you've gone through this too, because you just stated that they're like, Cindy, just say it, whatever comes through, is we were in a van, we're driving to the location, and I know nothing about the place. And most of the time, I don't even know what city we're in because we're moving from one place to the next. Mm-hmm. Chris, what are you getting? I said, well, I'm just seeing this white duck. And this white duck, it's either a duck or a goose. Can't tell, but I'm seeing this thing, and it's significant. I'm like, well, this is just ridiculous. Why am I even getting this? Sure enough, the house we went to, we had elementals there. The white duck was only a few feet away from where they had chopped down a cherry tree, which had affected the elementals in the backyard, in the garden.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I mean, you'll see that. Like when people start destroying nature.
Nature is significant. But the thing was that, they were all like, wow. But, because the director had already been there, but my co-host hadn't been there and I hadn't been there. So we're walking around. I'm in the house. I don't see any white duck. I go outside and I'm like, oh my God, there's this white goose duck statue that is right there. And so I race over to it. This is significant. What is it that's significant? I said, there's something right around here that is very important to why these entities are pissed off about this house. I said there was something that was buried or something that was taken, removed. And sure enough, it was a tree that he had cut down when he moved in 10 months ago. And the statue of this goose duck was marking it.
That's crazy, Chris, because one of the cases we did for Holzer Files, and I think I can share this because I don't actually think that this piece will make it in because it was a little bit detached from the storyline, I guess. But same thing. I was at this location and I said, you know what? There's some elementals. They are so pissed because this house was built with wood that was chopped down on Native American land.
Wow.
I said the wood was brought in here from Native American land to build structures on this property. And you can feel that energy. You can feel it because they kept saying the trees, the trees were mad about the tree. It was just interesting. It's so interesting. Yeah.
That's the thing is like, I find it too, as I tell the director, I go, because I'm rattling all this stuff on when I'm going through is I sometimes forget because, it comes and goes.
Totally.
And it's like, make a list of everything that I said. And then we got to check all of this. I want to know about every single thing that came through, regardless if it's part of the case or not, or is it something that's in the area or something regarding. So, the best piece of advice I tell everybody listening that is a psychic from what Cindy's saying and what I'm saying is when you go to a location, you're picking stuff up, write it all down or have someone do it or document with the audio or video camera. Because sometimes you'll surprise your stuff as well as others because, like you said, that history may not be something that people know about, but they uncover later, and you were correct.
And it happens a lot, right? And so I also tell mediums and psychics, you have to develop a trust with the other side because you're not always going to be validated by people in the living. You have to have trust with the other side. Obviously, we need validation to build confidence to know we're not going insane, or whatever. But at some point, after working for several years, you really have to trust what you're receiving and know that even if you're not validated, that's okay because you're not always going to get the validation,
Yes, that's so
and,
true.
One other thing that I think you'll find this funny is I don't know if it's happened to you or not, but I was doing an event the other day and I was, sensing this gallows, right? Because people had been hanged and what was coming through, I was like, oh, somebody that was doing the hangings, like what is it called? People that work at the jail, the jail guard, guard.
Yeah, right.
But anyway. So I was like, God, something went wrong. Like he didn't do it right. It wasn't right. There was a mishap. And so then I was seeing this rope, but it looked really short. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I go, it's short. Why is it? It's short. So I was thinking the rope was short, but what the spirit world was telling me is that the man, so in the history books, the man who was accused of hanging the inmates incorrectly, his name was Shorty. He went by Shorty.
Holy cow. Yes. Oh, is that cool?
See what I mean? But I'm seeing it clairvoyant, like a rope. And I'm like, why is this short? It's short. I kept saying it's short, but it was like trying to give me the name of the man who was responsible for that. It's interesting.
Yes. You'll get certain little images that pop up that are trying to describe a particular person or a situation. Like a spirit trying to get your attention, waving a flag. It keeps waving it and you find out that, oh my God, his last name was Flag. You know, you have to decipher. It's like charades.
It's like charades. I always say it's like Pictionary, charades, and telephone. Like that's how I describe mediumship. Welcome to our world. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you found that, like, over the years, friends of yours or relationships or whatever, that people that have been around you have had more experiences or started to have experiences that they never did before?
Yeah, that has happened. And I feel kind of bad when that happens, Chris. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
What do you think that is? I know I haven't had that conversation with a lot of people. So it's like, I kind of want to ask you, what do you think is happening? Because I've had all my friends over the years and other shows that I've done, they didn't have experiences. And then they start having experiences, even stuff that, happens at their home that they didn't before. What do you think that is that allows them to have that?
I don't know. I mean, I think I want to believe that it's because they're, becoming more aware of the spirit world by just us speaking about that. So it's creating an opening for them, and so, and then the spirits say, oh, now this person's aware, I'm going there, maybe. But then the other part of me is like, God, I hope that something didn't just follow them from me, like that's
exactly, Cindy, when I had done, I did a show called Dead Famous years ago, and we went to celebrity haunted locations and attempted to communicate with celebrities. And some celebrities we did and some we didn't. But what happened that was even kind of shocking to me at the time, because the last time I had done seances were with some of my friends or family growing up in our haunted house. And here I am doing it with people I don't know, doing it with my co-host, and there's a camera there. And I was never comfortable about that. But what always happened 75% of the time is someone would be profoundly affected during the seance. They would have a spirit channel through them or something would try to latch on.
Right.
And when this went into the second, third season, my co started to yell at me saying that's my fault. And I said, listen, I can protect everybody and try to with white light, but I can't affect what they're thinking, and opening stuff up. I don't know why I brought this up.
But here's the thing, Chris. It's like, how could it be your fault? Because who's to say? It could be that the person having the experience was already open and they weren't aware of how open that they already were.
Thank you.
And so that was just a space for them, for the spirit to recognize that and go in. I mean, people are walking around open all the time, totally unaware of how expanded their auras are or how open they are. They don't recognize it, right?
Right.
They might understand that they're, having empathic experiences, but people sometimes just totally aren't aware. And they have to have that kind of an experience to make them understand that they too have an ability or a gift.
Right. No, thank you for saying that. It's, like it awakens something inside them. They get a new awareness, or the universe says, oh, here's my door in to let them know that we exist.
Right.
This series that you've been doing, the Holzer Files. Now, obviously, I'm familiar with Hans Holzer. I had the book growing up as a kid with a lot of his cases, the A through Z manual. For people that are not familiar with the concept of the show, if they haven't seen it, and are not familiar with Hans Holzer, can you please explain to us the concept of the show and a little bit about Hans Holzer?
Yeah. So, what's really funny, Chris, is before being on the show, when I got the call, like, hey, we're going to do Holzer Files. Would you like to be on it? It's about Hans Holzer. I'm like, who's that?
Right. Yeah.
I feel like such an idiot because everybody else knows who he is. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've just been living in my mediumship bubble, because I studied with the Spiritualist National Union and all that stuff. So it's like a totally different world. Right. And so, anyway, so Hans Holzer is like the grandfather of paranormal. He's written like hundreds of books. He's done investigations all over the world, like thousands of cases. And he really took his job seriously. And he's also a scientist. I mean, the man was very intelligent. He was very good at documenting all of his cases. And he would always bring mediums with him to investigations, which I think is amazing. I'm very lucky to be a part of this show because what I've seen, and I can't make this as a blanket statement, but what I've seen is the paranormal world and the mediumship world are actually quite separate. So if but he really believed that mediums were a very important tool and part of an investigation. And he primarily worked with trance mediums. And the two that he worked with the most were Sybil and Ethel. So what's happening now is we're going back and reinvestigating cases that he had investigated in the 50s, the 60s, some in the 70s. But we have, so the Hans's family, his daughter, Alexandra, allowed the production company access to his files that nobody has ever seen. So that's what's really cool, because even if people have read the books, they still don't have this information. So we're cracking open these cases, and some of the cases haven't even been in the books. So what's been so fun for me is to go into these locations, and then I get what I'm getting, and then I see how it compares to what these mediums are getting in the 50s and 60s. And it's so fun because they're going into trance, right? Getting their mediumship trance. And then I'm doing clairvoyance and automatic writing, but we're getting the same stuff. Right. And it's just so fun because you should have the same information coming through if you've got two mediums going to the same location. Well, I guess if the intention is to pick up on that timeline, if you're setting the intention, but it's just been so fun. Yeah.
What's fascinating, people that maybe have not seen the show, and I think it's a great show, and I think the concept is fantastic because it takes us in a more historical direction, but then also it gets into a little bit of the CSI, by finding these new clues and stuff like that Holzer might have missed, or validating stuff that he's gotten. It's interesting how you go in and you work and you're picking up on the stuff that's going on. Like the first episode I saw, and Holzer is talking about the hand that come up and the experience that these individuals had, which was terrifying. But then you're also picking up, well, there's more bodies, and I believe there's some type of killer that was doing this. And then you guys go down this road to go investigate that, and what you uncover is startling.
It's crazy.
Yes.
And Chris, you know what's funny about that episode? It didn't make it in the cut, but I literally said this in scene. I was like, you guys, this is so crazy, but I swear to God, I'm seeing like a ghost tornado. It's like a tornado of ghosts swirling towards me, because it was showing me that they were blowing in from a different space. Like they were coming in, because when you watch the episode, you understand why, but because the bodies were all around that area. But it was really fascinating because sometimes I don't understand what I'm seeing. I'm like, why is there a tornado of ghosts coming at me from somewhere else? It's like sweeping across this area. It was weird.
Right. But to me, I totally get it. And I was thinking that when I was watching that show, because then you start doing non-locality, and it's just like prayer. When you say a prayer, people understand. You say a prayer, you're projecting it to another place, to a specific person, or a variety of people. The same thing is within mediumship. You're connecting with the ether, and you're projecting this out. You're also projecting at the spot, and any type of spirits that are related to it recognize that, because they're pure consciousness and they hear those thoughts. So a lot of them will come forward. I remember I don't remember the town we were in, of course, when I was in the UK, but I was at the house, and I'm going through, I do the walk through the house, I go through the barn, and then something takes me out to the forest, says, I need to go out the forest. And I see all these people from the forest come out of the forest and stand around. So I grab my recorder and I start recording, because I'm a medium that will communicate with the spirits, but then also get my recorder out and I'll listen to it later. And I said, why are you here? What are you all doing here? It's like, you're not a part of this, but yet you've come forward. What do I need to know? And in some of the EVPs, it says God hates us. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand this. When I meet with the owners, after I've done my walkthrough, everything else, and we do a trigger session, I said, what's with all these people, in the forest that were coming forward? He says, why? What were you getting? I said, well, they're saying like God hates us. He's like, oh my God. He says, about 1.5 miles away, I forget how many hundreds of years ago, they had buried so many people in these pits that were non-denominative. They had no religion, everything. And because of that, they just buried them all there. There were men, women, children. So I was like, oh my God, now I understand. So I told the director, I said, I realize this isn't going to be part of the show, but when we're done with this and this, I have to go there. I have to communicate and do prayers for the dead. So I did. I went and did prayers for the dead, and the angels to come through. I read out loud the prayers. I did the chime, the holy water, everything. We documented it. It wasn't part of the show. Doesn't matter, because I was there to assist and to help in any way that spirit comes forward. And you know this, because I saw you on the show. You're like looking around, like, because you're starting to sense there's other things around that are starting to come in. But I know Shane and David probably don't recognize that, but I can recognize from some of your body movements that you are tapping into that. And it's not being explained completely to the viewer, because you're still kind of like, wow, I feel all these other things coming forward. That's fascinating to me. But it shows that you are connected. And as we know, we're more than our physical body. And our consciousness exists outside the body. And that's what you, as a clairsentient, clairaudient, and everything that you're doing.
Well, and you too, right? Like, because it's like, I think a big piece of advice for anybody listening that is a developing medium or practicing medium or whatever, I've learned that the more that I heal myself, the better my mediumship becomes.
Yes.
So as I evolve as a person and work through my own stuff, my mediumship becomes better and I'm open to more things. It's interesting how that works.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. It's like the ego and the self-criticism stuff, remove all that. It's like I had a spirit tell me, goes, Chris, it's not about you.
Right.
What about this other person? What about all these other people? And I remember when I almost died and I was on the other side and there's the angel. And I said, all right, let's go. I'm done. I'm not going back. And he's like, hold on. I go, wait a minute. And I said, I know the universe and it's free will. So therefore you can't tell me I have to go back if I don't want to. He's like, you're right. I said, so I want to go in. He's like, can I show you something? I said, there's nothing you can show me that's going to change my mind. And everybody knows this story, but he says, look to the left and I see all these people that are looking at us. I'm like, who are these people? I walked right into it. He's like, so glad you asked. These are all the people you haven't met yet, that you haven't come in contact with, that you're going to make a difference, or some of them is going to make a difference in your life that fulfills their path and their destiny. And then I saw the flashes and I realized, oh my God, I turned to him, I go, it's not about me. He goes, no, it's not. I said, it's about them. Send me back right now. And I went back. And it's like when we learned that, the stuff we come in contact with and the stuff that happens in our life is miraculous.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I mean, it's such an amazing journey. And I think I'm like you in where I can be very critical of my work. And then I have to remember, like, why am I doing this? Is it because I'm trying to make myself look amazing, or am I trying to help people? Like, what's my purpose? Right. But I think it's also, and I think you're probably the same way. I know I can't speak for you, but I think that I want to do a good job because I want to make a difference. And I want people to truly understand that life exists after death. Right. And so that's why I'm critical, because I'm like, oh, if I could have done this better, it would have, but then at the end, it doesn't even matter. Right. It's like, it's just showing up. It's showing up and being present for spirit to come through. It's showing up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this surrendering, I surrender, show me what I need to know to help these souls, these spirits, to help this case. And then whatever unfolds.
Exactly.
Now, as you know, it's normal that people in the paranormal or people that are mediums have been influenced by something in their childhood, whether they've had an encounter, an experience, or they themselves had opened up to the unknown. Do you mind sharing with us your first experiences you had in childhood?
Yeah, sure. So the first experience that I can remember having, I was around 10, and there was a girl who passed away in my elementary school in a car accident. So the whole school, it was tragic. They were hit by drunk drivers. Her name was Amber, and we used to walk home from school together. We weren't super close, but there were a group of us who would walk home from school together. And so I woke up in the middle of the night after she passed away, and she was standing directly next to my bed, like the Sixth Sense style, right? And it was terrifying. So I pulled the covers over my head, I pulled him back, and she was still there. And then I pulled him back over my head again, and then I didn't look out again. And so for many years, like that always stuck with me because I knew something had happened, but I didn't understand it. So, but when you have those experiences, you can't unsee them. They don't go away. You might not understand it, but there it is. But then as a kid, I was always very sensitive. I knew when things were going to happen before they did. I was having those experiences, and I was very, very sensitive. And so just, another part of my story is around 16 is when I couldn't handle what was happening to me energetically. So I tried to self-medicate that with drinking, and then I had to stop that, and so it really wasn't until my 20s that I was able to really step into, owning my ability, because I had to go through all that other stuff first and then look back and say all of those things. Now I understand why I was so sensitive. Now I understand what happened with this girl who died. Now I understand why I could see things that were going to happen before they did. But I didn't grow up in an environment where I was taught metaphysics, So it took me a while. And the first, and I will say the first mentor that I ever had, I was 19. I met her. Her name was Bonnie. And she was trying to help me, even though I still wasn't quite accepting my abilities yet, but she saw it in me. And then finally, when I, stopped drinking all that crap and then really embraced it, she was like, thank God. Oh my God. I was waiting for you to figure it out. I was trying to help you, So I feel like I've been guided along the way by these little, human angels that have just popped in at the right time to help me on my path. I've been very fortunate,
No, absolutely. Did you find it difficult at that time? Were you running into negative type things and divine intervention type things? Were you having any of that at all? Or was it just like human spirits?
So, well, I will say that when I was drinking heavily before I quit at 23, so like right before I stopped drinking, I was running into some dark stuff. Like I was waking up in the middle of the night, and it wasn't sleep paralysis because I'm familiar with that, but I was experiencing some really dark stuff. But then on the other hand, like I was saying, I felt like I could have, died a million times. I was not responsible, and I was always protected, and people would just show up. And so it was like both. It's like, I feel like if you could imagine the angel and the demon, right? It was like both sides were kind of there.
Yep.
And so I just honestly, I can't say it enough. I feel very lucky, and I feel very grateful that I was able to push through that phase and come out on the other side, because I think it's a common thing for people that are very sensitive and intuitive and gifted to not understand what's happening to them energetically and to choose to self-medicate. It's so common.
I understand. There's different times in life that are very difficult. We have to find ways to cope. May not always be the best way for us, but I guess that's a lesson we all go through, to choose correctly. And sometimes that journey, we walk away with really strong and important lessons. It's, I'm just got all these things flashing through me, the things that I went through in high school. I used to get in fights a lot because I would take out my anger because my dad was a hockey player. And I used to say, I got the devil, behind me, or I got angels. I would go back and forth between the two. But I had to learn both sides. Luckily I never really self-medicated or coped in that sense, because my dad was an alcoholic at one period of his time and of his life, because his life turned just another light just shot up. A whole mist of white light just shot up behind you again.
Oh, it did?
Wow. Yes, it did. I got like chills right now while I was talking about that, about my father. My father tends to be around a lot, so it's interesting I bring this up, but he went through that challenge of his life, and he started drinking, and when he got drinking, things got violent, and then negative things were in the house too. So sometimes we have to go that route.
Yeah.
And I share this with you, Cindy, real quickly, 10 years ago, I had a car accident. And then I went through really dark time because of the pain. And I just had surgery last week on my neck again, and I'm in pain right now. But to me, it's so much better than what it was, and I can handle it. But there was a period of time, 2014 through 16, that I couldn't take it anymore, and I was going to be ending my life. And I had planned to do that because I went into such a dark frequency and vibration, and then miracles happened, and it brought me out. And I remember earlier this year sitting down watching Netflix, and I accepted my path years ago, about 3 years ago, when all this started to come to fruition. I remembered my out-of-body experience and what they were telling me, and the bridge, and everything was coming together. But I said a few months ago, I said, God, why? But why did that have to happen? Couldn't there have been another way? I mean, that's 10 years I lost in my life. I lost so much. What did I gain from this? What did I gain? And this woman voice says, you gained patience, compassion, and empathy.
Wow, that's deep.
And then I sat down. I'm like, but I always had that. But yet I didn't fully understand, because I had to go through where I lost everything. Yeah. I had to go through where I was in so much pain. I had to go through that darkness where there was no way out, so that I could relate to the spirits that are still stuck there.
Yep.
In the spirit world that are confused and lost, but also people on this planet in my consultations I do to understand, my God, what they're going through.
Right.
And they just see this darkness. They don't know where to go.
Yep.
So I want to thank you, Cindy, for sharing and bringing this out in the open so that we could discuss. So we can realize that in our experiences that we learn, those dark things become our strengths.
Absolutely. And one of my friends, his name is Tony Stockwell. Do you know Tony Stockwell?
I know the name. Yes.
Yeah. So he said something to me that I thought was actually profound. At least it hit me that way at the time. He said, you have to touch the darkness to really understand the light. And I was like, you know what? He's right. And I think people also confuse empathy and compassion, because they're definitely not the same thing, right? Like I always thought I was super compassionate, and then I know I'm an empath, but I had to go through some stuff to really gain compassion, right? Because they're not the same.
Right.
They get confused.
Absolutely. Was there anybody in your family or your history of family that had either paranormal experiences or had certain abilities?
My brother is very intuitive. My mom passed away in 2013. I think that she also is very intuitive, although she never acknowledged it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And she went through bouts with religion, so I think it just was difficult for her.
Understood.
But my brother is very, very open. So I do think it runs in our family. I know I'm the first person to ever come out and speak about it, and luckily, even on my dad's side, they're very Catholic. I have two aunts that were nuns. They're no longer nuns, but they were. So, nobody says anything to me, whether they like it or not. And I appreciate that because I'm not receiving any negative feedback.
Right.
They just kind of, but,
right.
Yeah, no, I do think it's in the family for sure. On my mother's side more than my father's side. Yeah.
Have you found it difficult in your life? Obviously, you went through a lot of changes, ups and downs, which a lot of us go through. Have you found it difficult at times to be in certain friendships or relationships because of your ability, because the person's lying to you, or the person might have an attachment, or they're just not on the same frequency? How have you handled that in the past?
Yeah, that is a great question, Chris. I don't think in the past I've necessarily handled that in the best way.
I haven't either. You're not alone, okay?
But I will say, in the work that I've been doing on myself, I've been doing a lot of shadow work in the last couple of years.
What's that?
So dealing with, everybody has light and everybody has a shadow. The tendency, at least in our culture, is to avoid the shadow, to avoid the things that we don't like about ourselves, to kind of put them over here and then just focus on it, just put it aside. So when you're doing that, right, you're not actually able to love yourself as a whole, because you have to embrace the light and the shadow and love all of it. So there's a point to this, because once you love yourself and all the little dark spaces that may exist in there, it's easy to love other people and meet them where they need to be met and not be judgmental or not be triggered by it, because you realize that person is just where they're at. That's their experience right now. You know what? Like, I could be there at some point too, maybe not, but there's also something about boundary setting too. There's all of it. Right. So I think I've learned that I can show up and be compassionate and loving while also setting boundaries and taking care of myself.
Great. And I'll tell you, Cindy, without you knowing it, you're actually saying something from the universe to me, something I'm going through right now. And I'm sure some of my listeners need to set some boundaries for other people in their life as well. But I'll just say real quickly, obviously with the election, everything going on, I've taken a step back and I said, so it begins. Stuff that I've talked about 10 years ago, what I spoke about last year. And unfortunately, a friendship I had he's pro-Trump, I'm just going to say that, has bombarded me over the last 6 months with videos and stuff and conspiracies. And I'm like, listen, dude, I don't want all this stuff. What are you doing? You're trying to influence me, my decision. I've already done my own research and everything, but stop. I mean, we're friends. This is like getting to where it's abusive in a way. And he just kept going and going. And then he got really evil and nasty with his comments to where I had to say, I hate to do this. I mean, you've been my friend for 10 years. It's like, I got to block you because that's all you're sending me. And I realized something's happened to him. Okay. This obsessiveness. So I blocked him, but then I started seeing posts popping up on social media. He says, you're a fraud, you're a psychic fraud. And he's saying Trump 2020 and this and that. And I'm like, why is he doing this? But the prophecy that I had stated 10 years ago and what I stated a year ago hasn't come to fruition. And then I feel this spirit pull away and say, Chris, let everybody do what they got to do. And like I said in the wave and the tide last year on Instagram, the video's still up there, is everybody's going to be having their own opinions and stuff. Some are going to get drowning in this tide and these waves of events that are coming. And everybody's saying, well, I know the truth, or this is the truth. You're in a time of disinformation, misinformation. Stay grounded. Get past these waves and these tides. Stay in your boat. Remember who you are and why you're here. And as some people start changing, don't get caught up in that and have them bring you down. Remember who you are. And I flashed back to that. I said, you know what? I'm not responding to any of this. Even it's been a couple of weeks and I just blocked for right now until the events happen and then it's revealed. They have their own awakening, so to speak, of whatever comes in the next, couple months. Plus, I remember an experience from my 6th grade that just told me, well, I always remember this, and I think this is the time.
Oh, I'd like to talk to you maybe like what about that after, like whatever, because I'm interested to hear what your prophecy was. By the way, when you were just talking, do you work with the Christ consciousness a lot? Because I swear, when you were talking about your I saw Jesus walk right through you. I was like,
Cindy,
oh.
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen listening, you've probably heard my podcast from many years ago. Some of you have never heard this. Cindy just completely tapped into something that I was thinking, but I didn't want to say it on the show. In 6th grade, Jesus appeared to me. And this is what I've been thinking about the last week or so. Jesus appeared to me in 6th grade because my parents were going through a divorce. We had a lot of negative stuff happening in the house. My dad got arrested for something, and I was getting teased at school. And, going to school and being around my friends now turning on me like that and making fun of me and doing all this stuff why? I didn't do anything to them. And I was a very nice person growing up. I came home, cried, and says, God, I don't want to be here anymore. Jesus, I don't want to be here anymore. And all of a sudden I'm whisked out to a room and there's Jesus. And I'm having a conversation with Jesus, and I'm looking at my hands going, oh my God, I'm supposed to be in my bed, but here I am with him. And he says to me, besides something funny he did to make me laugh, and he says, Chris, it's great to see you laugh again. He says, Chris, what they're saying and doing, they don't know the whole story, basically, is what he's saying. They're laughing at you because they're just laughing at a situation that they don't fully understand, and they want to be right. They don't know what you're actually going through and your family's going through and what you're feeling inside. So don't take it personal. He's like, don't take it personal. He says, will you remember this? Will you always remember this? Because there's going to be a time in your life where it's going to happen again and it's going to be overwhelming. And I said, okay. Didn't quite understand that. But then, like I was talking to Chip Coffey on the phone a couple weeks ago, we were chatting about what's going on and, before the election. I said to him, I said, you know what? I'm seeing what's going on, Chip. But then also I see Jesus on the cross. He looks at these people that tortured him, that beat him, that put him on the cross. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I think that's the thing that I'm starting to get now, going back to my 6th grade too. Like, hey, this individual you've been friends with 10 years that is attacking you, he doesn't know everything you've been through. He doesn't know what you foresee. He doesn't know why you're here. He doesn't know all this stuff. Let him just get it out. Let him purge that out, because when events unfold and things happen, he's going to realize, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? But it's a process he has to go to evolve as well as probably a lot of other people. So I resonate back to that 6th grade with Jesus. And I was thinking that in my head, but I didn't want to say it. And you just brought it up. So I'm telling you now, yes, it is the Christ consciousness. It is his connection saying, hey, just step back. Look what they did to me. He's saying, like, look what they did to me. But all these people wanting to be right and wanting to be on top, let them fight it out. You step back, remember who you are, and then you be there to heal those after they go through what they go through. But that's just remarkable that you got a flash of that.
I mean, it was just crazy watching this. I just literally saw Jesus like walking through you. I was like, wow.
That's crazy. I mean, that's not crazy. It's what we do. But thank you for that. And I'm giving you confirmation. I have a couple other questions, but we got about maybe 10 minutes here.
Sure.
Now, you learned about your abilities. You went through this awakening when you were 20 years old. And then you started doing some training. You did some training in the United States. And then you went to the Findlay School of Intuitive Sciences in England. What was that like? And how did you feel you learned and increased your abilities from all that?
I studied at the Arthur Findlay College. It's in Stansted, England. And, the college is a spiritualist college. Spiritualism is not my religion, but it's a religion, Mm-hmm. So it's really, it was one of the most amazing times of my life. It was challenging. I cried a lot because I was so in my ego. It's kind of like boot camp where they're like, we're going to crush your ego so we can build that back up, But really, it's like Harry Potter school. That's how I like to describe it, because you go there, it depending on how many weeks you're staying or how many courses you're taking, you sleep in this castle. It's literally a castle. You do mediumship for 12 hours a day. You have 3 meals. You do mediumship all day, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again and you do it again. And so for 5 years, I went to England sometimes 3 times a year, usually twice. And I would stay for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I was so immersed in learning mediumship. And when I say learning mediumship, it's not like they're like making me a medium. It's understanding the mechanics of mediumship, because without that understanding, I wouldn't have the knowledge of clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, Pictionary, charades, and telephone. What do you do? How do you feel into it? Are you having a soul to soul connection with the spirit, or is it mind to mind? I mean, there's so many things, right? There's so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned about psychometry. I learned about some of the history of mediumship, trance mediumship. I've taken courses in trance. It's not my thing, but I understand it. I understand the layers of trance. So I really wanted to understand the field that I was going into. And also because I love teaching. So to have that foundation, it's allowed me to teach mediumship and to help people develop their abilities. So it was magical. It's a magical time. I miss those days. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I kind of want to just go back and sleep there for a week, but it's very special. It's a special place. If anybody has the opportunity to go, it's special. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, very fortunate to be able to do that and learn. I mean, only thing I had is, my mom shared with me thought transference, ESP. She had dreams that would come true, precognition and visions. That was it. She didn't see ghosts and everything like I did, but she would sense them and we'd have experiences together. I think like the biggest thing I ever learned was when I was doing Dead Famous. I was very fortunate to work with Lloyd Aubuck, a parapsychologist, as well as Barry Taff, Pamela Heath. They knew all the terminologies. They studied all that stuff. They got the degrees and everything in that. So when I was doing my walkthroughs and coming up with stuff, I said, hey, well, what is this called that I'm doing? I don't even know. And they would tell me, well, you're picking up place memory, information that is recorded.
Oh, yeah. It's psychometry. Yes. So it's psychometry. Yes. So, right. And so this is an interesting kind of segue into when you were talking about what happens when you're in an investigation with Holzer Files, what people also maybe don't see, because I'm not saying it out loud necessarily, is when I'm in a location, I have to understand, is this a psychic imprint left in the building, or is this actual activity? Am I picking up on the memory of the spirit walking by, or is it really a spirit? Then you have to know what the spirit, then you have to know where am I, transporting my mind to a different location. It's a lot, right? There's like so much in there. Well
said. And sometimes people forget, they feel emotional. Oh my God, is some entity affecting me? I said, well, no, there could have been someone that had a traumatic experience right there, and you're picking up the place memory of it. Mm-hmm. So are you done filming the second season, or you're still filming some episodes?
We're done filming the second season. We had to take a break because of COVID. So we got shut down in March, and then we went back in August. Or July, but we're finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And it's 12 episodes or 10?
13.
13. What? That's amazing. What a great number.
Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. I've seen the first episode. I loved it. And I know I sent a message to Dave. I'm going to track down the second one. Then you have the third season, which will be airing this week, correct?
Oh, the third episode. Yeah. Thursday.
The third episode.
I'm like, hey, did you just do a prediction? Thanks, Chris.
You're going to get a third season. There's no doubt.
Thanks. But no, it airs Thursday nights on the Travel Channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can find it on Hulu, Amazon Prime, Sling, all those other things too.
There we go. That's important. We call the streamers, because I know I get all these streamer services that I watch stuff. Do you know, has your show been picked up in other countries yet?
Yeah, season 1, I believe it aired in Australia, Canada, and then somewhere in Eastern Europe. It was very random. I can't remember which country, but I was like, oh, that's surprising. I do feel like it will be in the UK. I know I've got to ask Dave, but I think it will be up in the UK. Yeah.
All my listeners that watch the Really channel, start writing to them and telling them that you want to see the Holzer Files, that you want to see Cindy, Dave, and Shane, because it's a really cool series. And I think the great thing about it that I love is that the production quality is really good. Same production company that does the Dead Files, and they've run like 13, 14 seasons, is that they show some great general views of the location, and then they have this original audio of Hans Holzer and the mediums.
It's crazy.
Communicating with that case.
Yeah.
You guys get to listen to that. You guys get to investigate that location and try to tie it all together. That's just awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun. And hearing the old recordings of the trance mediums, it makes me afraid sometimes. I'm like, God, that's so creepy,
It is creepy, right? When they're channeling the spirits?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Cindy, I want to thank you so much for being on this show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was great.
Pleasure. And for those that are listening, you can definitely check out Cindy at her website, which is mediumcindykaza.com, Kaza.com. And you could also go to her Facebook as well with profile name Medium Cindy Kaza, where she offers some Zoom live galleries that she'll be doing in the future. And don't forget, of course, to watch the Holzer Files on Travel Channel and other networks around the globe. And see if you can find and check out her appearance on Portals to Hell with Jack and Katrina, which I know has aired in the USA and the UK. Thank you, Cindy, for taking the time and coming on Spirit Talk.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, I feel like so connected to you. I hope I get to meet you in person.
We will.
Yeah, I love your vibe. Yeah.
Thank you. This is Chris Fleming and Cindy Kaza. Thank you for listening to this month's edition of Spirit Talk.